And it is actually Christmas Eve as I film this. We're over in the hothouse. It's time for the hotties. Let's get started. And we are in. Okay, so I don't know whether I'll actually get this video out before Christmas. I'll do my best, but you know what it's like at Christmas time. So rather a lot to talk about. Not vlogged over here for quite a while, so I expect it to be a reasonably lengthy video. So if you've nothing to do, you're on holiday, and you want to come along for the ride and just enjoy chatting about our favourite hobby, of course the plants, and I think you're in for a good one because there's lots going on and lots of things to discuss. I did a little survey recently on my community page. Well, it's not really a page, is it? On the community feed of my channel. So if you subscribe to me, then you may well get these community posts. Obviously, if you're not going to get them. Even if you are subscribed, you don't always get the community posts. I think last look, there's about 68 people had actually responded to this survey. For somebody who has nearly 11,000 subscribers, I know that's not a lot, but I can only go off what people actually input there. If nobody inputs it, then you know their voice will not be heard. I can only go off what people say. And I asked people what style of video did they like, and I give them the option of either a scripted video. You can tell which ones are my scripted videos. They actually take way longer than this vlog style of video. Way longer. You know, like 10 times longer. It can easily take me like every day of a week to do that, to do the whole process. These vlog ones, I can get one filmed up in a day, no problem whatsoever. But I like to mix them up. But as I said, the actual poll that I did was asking which of the video styles did you like? Did you like the scripted videos? Did you like the off-the-cuff videos like this one? Or did you like me to mix them up? And by far, the most common one that was chosen was actually the mixing up of videos. So, I mean, that's good for me. That gives me lots of scope. And I do like to do different ones. I do like to, you can't just vlog all the time. Well, I don't think so anyway. Not me, personally. Some people can. For me, I like to mix them up and do different ones because I like to research them sometimes. I like to do a video where I have to research and I learn something as well. So I want to go through one or two things here, more than one or two things, and discuss what's happened. Now, obviously, we are post hotbox sulphur hotbox. We're post that, we're after that. Lots of people have been asking me, well, not lots, but several people have questioned about residue on the leaves. So let's discuss residue. So first things first, this up here is the chain that I hang it from. Now, if you look very closely, I don't know if it'll focus. Let's see if I can get it to focus. There you go. So you can see residue on there, can't you? So it's like a dust. Okay, there we go. Now, that is obviously directly above where the hotbox hangs. Okay, this dust, I mean, there's not a lot of it. It's only a tiny little bit. It soon disappears. You can very easily hoover it up. But does it get anywhere else? Well, let's look at leaves, shall we? Here's the biggest leaves over here. So, residue. Can you see any residue? They've not been touched. Now, you would expect there to be some residue in here because I don't put any water on the leaves in here. I never clean the leaves. Unfortunately, I'm not that kind of a gardener, horticulturalist. I don't polish leaves, I don't spray them, I don't do anything with them, so they do build some kind of residue, but there is nothing. There is no sulphur. Bear in mind, I've been running this thing for 2 or 3 months now. Nothing on any leaves, absolutely nothing. So I'm quite happy with the results of it. And certain things have changed, have improved since I started using the sulphur hotbox. For now, I'm happy to say, and there's always that little caveat, isn't there, but in my conditions, it's working really well. Would I encourage other people to get one? That's up to them. It might not work in their conditions. They might not like the smell. There's all sorts of things that they might not like about it. I wouldn't say get it or don't get it. All you can do is I put my information out there. If you want to try it for yourself, great, go for it, and I hope it works for you. If you're worried about it, well, don't get one. It's up to you. Right, let's start with this one. So this is my Syngonium albo variegata. Some people call them Syngoniums. I don't know why. I like the soft G. I like the way it sounds. So this has been growing in my conservatory all summer and partway, well, certainly all autumn, partway through the winter. Look at some of these leaves. Now, isn't that gorgeous? How can you not like variegation? I know some people don't. Variegation is everything as far as I'm concerned. I actually prefer it to blooms. So we've got some totally white leaves. Apologies for the noise. So that is my heater. In fact, I'll turn it off. It's looking, this was a cheap one. It's looking a little bit worse for wear. You can see the paint coming off at the bottom. I'll turn that off for now. Then we won't get that rattling paint. So yeah, it's looking brilliant. Why is it back in here again? Well, in the conservatory, the minimum temperature in there is 5 degrees because I do have a radiator and I do make sure it doesn't go below that. But it's been at 5 degrees now for a number of weeks. Has it shown any signs of cold? Not a single thing. Obviously it stopped growing, but I thought, well, you know, I'm pushing my luck a little bit. These plants are meant to be at such temperatures for such a length of time. So I will give it a little holiday through the winter, and that's what I've done. And I think it's probably put a bit more growth on it. It's just beginning to come into growth again. You'll notice some of the leaves aren't variegated. There's a little bit on that one. There were some that had no variegation on whatsoever. And I do believe, or so I've read, that sometimes being in the dark can also affect them. And over in the conservatory, it's like a solid roof. It's not like a traditional conservatory roof, so there's no light comes in there. You've heard me say many times, we are shaded by 250-year-old sycamore trees, which I've just recently found out are not really sycamore trees. They're actually a relative of maples, of acers. What you call in the US sycamore trees, they're a completely different species to what we call sycamore trees, which I thought was quite interesting. So anyway, the leaves that were completely green, I've cut off. I didn't want to leave loads of bare stems, so I've left one or two, but most of them I've cut off because I don't want this gorgeous plant to revert. It's looking absolutely brilliant at the moment. Okay, so that's the Syngonium. If you're worried about it taking low temperatures, it can. I know because I've tried it. And I quite like it growing up this birch stick here, which was from a tree in my garden. It's a little bit heavy, but it does seem to work. It seems quite happy. And we're at the stage now where it's going off the top of it. So what do I do here? I don't know. I think it is going to be a clinger. I think Syngonium do cling to things, so I've got to be careful it doesn't cling to my building there. So what else have we got? So somebody also mentioned one of these. Do I grow alocasias? And I said, no, I don't grow alocasias. Well, I've got one, haven't I? Somebody give me this one. I would have thought it would have gone dormant by now, but it hasn't. My colocasia has gone completely dormant. This is an older plant. It did have the spider mite, nothing on it now, it appears. Let's have a look at the Kohleria. Kohleria is doing really well. This is not the time of year that Kohleria are normally in bloom. You know what happened here over August. So all my Kohleria were about to bloom in August, which is more really traditionally the time when they should bloom. And what happened was they got overwatered and they sat in some water only for a few days, but that was enough to completely knock them back. Now all my other Kohleria have actually gone into dormancy, but for some reason this one decided it was going to do the exact opposite, which I'm not really worried about. I used to worry about dormancy and getting things at the right time of year, and it really doesn't matter. They don't really mind, so long as they get some kind of dormancy at some point. Kohleria, I've found, can actually go a couple of years without going dormant, and then at some point they do need a bit of a rest. And I do believe there are some Kohleria, probably species, well yeah, definitely species, they won't be hybrids, will they? They're growing in the wild, that don't ever go dormant. So it's one of those where they're a little bit half and half, a bit like Hippeastrums. I believe in Florida, Hippeastrums don't go dormant at all. Whereas over here we find that certainly with our lower light levels, shorter days, lower temperatures, they do benefit from a little bit of a dormancy. So this is Kohleria Sunshine, looking absolutely fabulous, and one of my favourite blooms when it comes out. I mean, look at that, that is gorgeous, isn't it? Very, very delicate, very bright, loads of little intricate patterns on it. I really love that thing. Okay, so that's my Kohleria. So what else have we got to discuss? Begonias, they weren't really happy with the lower temperatures. They're coming back to me now. I have altered the temperatures again. Things went really well at 10 degrees Celsius for about a month, and then they rapidly dropped off. I mean, you can see my griffon, which was huge, now is just twigs. But I alter the temperatures. I've done it like as a gradual thing. I first of all reduced the length of time that I had it on the nighttime temperature, so that the days were a lot longer than the nights. Then I slowly increased the temperature and saw what happened. Waited a couple of weeks, see what happened, raised it again if things weren't going the way I wanted them to. So we're currently on this 18.5 during the day. Overnight it drops to a low of about 16. It's not a great deal of difference, but it's still better than 18.5 24 hours a day. At least it gives me a little bit of respite for paying for all the electricity. So the Griffon is now coming back. You can see we've got new leaves here. All this will completely recover. I've absolutely full confidence in it to recover. You can see some new leaves there, another new leaf at the top there. This is another little barometer, this Begonia silver lace. You can see even at 16, it's not happy with some of its leaves. See, this is cold damage. There's another one down there that's going, so I'll cut those off. The younger leaves are actually more robust than the older leaves. So I'll just cut off anything that's not happy. This was very, very big. This is Begonia green gecko. Again, very easy to cut down and it'll just come back again. That's looking fabulous. This one, this is my black fang, Begonia black fang. This didn't bat an eyelid. This was quite happy. The lower temperatures, even at 10 degrees, that was quite happy. Obviously it grows better up at 18 degrees. And if we're talking about a Begonia that doesn't seem to mind any temperatures that I've thrown at it, it's this one up here. So this one is Begonia Maisaeath nigricans. This one is a species, I believe. And I don't know if you can, you know, it's that big, I can't pick it up, not with one hand anyway. It's falling over. It really needs, as you can see in there, I love all the undersides. I don't know if you've ever noticed the undersides of it. These leaves, the colours, the glossy red, burgundy, and even the stems look fabulous, and the nice little cute young leaves there. So that one is absolutely bulletproof. Certainly for me it has been anyway. It's kind of semi-rhizomatous, semi-cane. It's a bit of both really. That needs some kind of division, chopping off. But when you've got like a specimen plant like that, it's hard to do something to it and spoil it because it's looking so good. It is very, very big now. So moving on, we have Begonia boweri over here. One of those plants that just has so many different leaves, so many different colours. And so there's a bit of a sign of slug. No, it's not. I thought it was a slug slime trail. It's just a little bit of water, just a drip. And I can pick this one up. So this one is a really good specimen. Look at all the different colours, look at all the different patterns. So this is the eyelash begonia. And I believe there are quite a number of hybrids, and I have one which I'm going to show you in a moment. Always worth looking underneath for begonias. A lot of people grow begonias, but how many people grow them just for the blooms compared to how many people grow this sort? This is another rhizomatous one, or rhizomatous, depending on how you want to look at it. So just talking about Begonia boweri, have a look down here, because I know I've shown you this once before, but I bought one called Begonia zumba, which is actually boweri. Here we go. Now, this one is going to be even more spectacular when it grows up. All the leaves by the side, or round the side, were chopped off in transit. Now I just stuck them in the pot because I knew that some of them would actually take. So you've not got a lot that's taken. So I've got 1, 2, 3 that's died, so they need pulling out. But this one has sprouted. In other words, it has rooted. The other leaves in the centre have come from the original root, so I'm quite happy that has come back. I give it some bottom heat, a little bit more humidity. So when I get another free hand, I'll take out those dead ones, and I'm happy that that's come back now. I might just leave it a little bit longer in the propagator. That one, I think it's safe to say, has completely gone. And we need to get rid of that one, and that means I'm on the lookout for another one of those. Can't even remember what it was. Begonia chlorosticta. Over here, my Begonia raja, another one that when it was actually out of its protection, all the leaves died. Again, they need chopping off. That one was just about saved, and I think I can see some new growth in the centre there. So that one, thankfully, I've not lost it. I know it's not looking brilliant, but it really just needs to be a bit more mature. It was only a very, very immature plant when it arrived, and it had the trauma of going through the post at the coldest time of the year, and that is the result. And that's what happened to the Chlorosticta. Just noticed that one's chopped off. I need to do something with that. You see things as you're going around, and I see them more when I'm actually filming, and then I forget about them and I don't do anything with them. That's my staghorn fern, which is actually going to be a little bit of a trouble to me because it's going to get very big. Actually, I learned something really interesting about staghorn the other day. You can see these at the bottom. So they have two kinds of fronds. They have these that look like a stag's horns, and then they have these down here. You can, oops, hang on a second. You can see that's a new one. And there's another one like these that go brown. Don't cut those off because they're all part of it. But these are called shield fronds. And if I read correctly, I'm sure I read correctly, these have adapted these shield fronds to actually collect detritus that falls from the tree canopy. And they're able to digest that. So that's what those shield fronds are for. At least that's what I read in a botany book. So I'm not trained as a botanist, but that's what I read. So I thought that was quite interesting. So you have a use for that kind of thing, and I always wondered what that was for. You know, these plants don't generally tend to evolve things unless they need them for something, and that's what I believe that is for. And while I'm scrambling around here on the floor, we have a Philodendron Pink Princess. Couple of new leaves on it. That one, bit disappointing, not much pink on it. We've got a little bit of pink on that one. So it does seem like it's going to be a little bit variegated, a little bit on there. I could really do with a bit more. We also have the Hibiscus Jose Puig, which is now on the floor. I've chopped so much of that off over summer, and it just keeps coming and coming and coming. Again, you've got to get close up to that to see that gorgeous, gorgeous, is it lime green edging? That is actually variegation. Variegation, I believe, to give it its broader definition, is any leaf which has more than one zone of colour, and that definitely has more than one zone of colour, so that is variegated. I know people tend to think, I'm just going to stand up so it might wobble about a bit, people tend to think of variegation as something like that, don't they? My Tradescantia Syringthoides, Nanook. These are growing really nicely now that I've brought them into the hothouse. Temperature is the best thing for Tradescantia Syringthoides. I like these to go big enough so that I can actually give them the bag treatment and see if I can root them along the lengths and see what that looks like. The big one hanging in the bag in the greenhouse is Tradescantia Zebrina Red Jewel. Imagine one of these in a bag like that. That would be brilliant. Talking of variegated plants, so my Monstera albo variegata, which is now chucking out another new leaf. So this again has been in the conservatory all summer, and again it's coped fantastically at the low temperatures of 5 degrees, and it had several weeks at that temperature. In fact, it's not going to really go much above 5 degrees now for the rest of the winter, but it just didn't bat an eyelid, despite the fact that it was in the dark practically, despite the fact that the temperatures were low day and night. And look at it, as soon as I brought it back in here for a little holiday, it's chucking out new leaves. I can understand why these old-fashioned Swiss cheese plants are so popular if they can cope with such a wide variety of conditions. I mean, this is a tropical plant, don't forget. They don't get those kind of temperatures, but my goodness, this just doesn't care. And if you've ever seen them in the wild, I mean, they go huge, don't they? Mine's like a little baby compared to what you get in the wild. So moving along here. So my pride and joy, which is no longer my pride and joy, my Begonia luxurians, is struggling a little bit to come back. I expected it to come back better than that, to be honest. There's a new leaf down there. It's kind of chucked a few new leaves up and then they've gone again, and I think it's the temperatures again that's made them go. Tiny little one coming there. I think it will come back. I'm not too worried about it anyway. We have next to it a Syngonium panda, which is panda no more. It's completely reverted now. It's just green. In fact, it never actually came to me with any variegation on it. Although you do have these veins at the bottom. I don't know if that might be what why it's called panda. Don't really know. I can't remember. I'll have to look that one up. And to the side of it, we've got verrucosum. That's Philodendron verrucosum, which is looking much better now that it's not got any thrips crawling all over it again, thanks to the sulphur hotbox. I mean, again, it may well stick to things. I've got to be careful here. I really need some more of these coir moss poles. It's not really moss, is it, if it's coir? I know I could get some of these with actual moss in them. I don't really want them. I know they look brilliant and they actually root into the moss, but do I want that? Do I want like 3 foot long leaves? I can't cope with them. They're just going to be too big for me. So I think the coir, which are actually cheaper anyway, are going to be okay for me. Nice little African violet there. That's the first of my African violets to bloom. I'm struggling a little bit with this hibiscus over here. You can see the leaves have gone yellow. It's kind of looking like it's going to go dormant. I think that was a result of it staying in the greenhouse for too long. I brought it in the hothouse a few days ago and I'm hoping that it recovers. I think the cold is something that it didn't really appreciate. I'm glad to see this is coming back again. So this is my, what's this one? I forget what they're called. Tradescantia tiana, aka Kohleria gentlei elegans. This was one of those that went fantastic, really big, and then it started to lose its leaves and, you know, the story, this kind of thing. The usual Tradescantia thing. It does look better now, I must say. And again, I really, really wonder whether part of that is a mite thing. Mites that you can't see. Talking of which, Tradescantia quadricolor. Now, I had a superb specimen of this back in the springtime. And again, it went really huge. And then I started to get this kind of thing. The leaves, that they die off further back. And then the whole thing just really collapsed. And I didn't know what it was. You couldn't actually see any mites on it. But as soon as I've got the sulphur hotbox going, the few remaining little sprigs that I took and put in a pot have started to come again. Now, whether that's just coincided with lower temperatures, again, it's always really difficult to say what these things are. But I'm looking at the whole, exactly what's gone on in the greenhouse has happened in here too. And most things are recovering since I got the hotbox. So that would lead me to think that the hotbox has something to do with it. The plumeria, well, I mean, look at it. In previous years, this has been completely devoid of leaves at this time of year. This one is almost devoid of leaves, but we've got some new ones coming there. But this one looks like it's just getting bigger and bigger as time's going on. And we've got loads of lovely new leaves. No sign of any mite damage. I've got to point to the hotbox. My Anthurium warwickii is another one that's growing really nicely since I got the hotbox. Again, I couldn't actually see anything on it, but were they mites that were microscopic, mites that couldn't be seen with a hand lens, and there are such things around. Some people have said to me how difficult Maranta is to grow. So this one is Maranta lemon and lime. And I've had this, I think I've had it at least a year now. And so far, I have to say, touch wood, I'll probably eat my words on this one. I usually eat my words with everything that I say. This one hasn't given me any problem. Nothing whatsoever. It didn't appear to be trouble with mites. It just keeps growing and putting out leaves and blooming. I mean, the flowers are nothing to, you know, I wouldn't buy it for flowers. You buy it for the leaves, don't you? This is definitely variegated on the veins and perhaps down the middle, close to the veins. Nice thing. I think that would look really nice in a basket. I believe that's how a lot of people grow them. Now, next to it, we've got Anthurium crystallinum. Again, another one that's putting loads of new leaves out since the hotbox arrived. Really pleased with that. I like the way that's growing. I'm going to have a problem in here, aren't I, when these things get big? I mean, these go huge. These go like 3 feet long, maybe even bigger than that. I don't know how long it takes to get to that stage. I'd imagine a few years. I suppose it depends on the conditions. But at the moment, it seems fairly happy. It doesn't seem too troubled with my conditions. Down here, we've got the Begonia listada. Somebody tell me this was a hybrid. I don't know whether this one is. And listada is actually a species. But I think there are a number of hybrids which look very similar to the species. This one suffered in those low temperatures, and it really did need a chop back. It was massive. But you can see we've got some new growth on it now since the temperatures were raised up again. Another little Kohleria down here. That one's going very big. Look at this. This is Dragon's Tail. That's looking pretty good. Quite pleased with that. Philodendron camposportianum. That's took me a while to learn. That's my biggest leaf one, I think, at the moment. And that one's heading off up here. That's probably about, I don't know, 5.5 foot tall. I've been telling you that I'm chopping this one back. What I'm trying to do with this, because it's gone quite leggy. This one is Begonia something, which I've forgotten again. Begonia Connie Boswell. So what I do with it is I cut the tallest one, and that hopefully makes something sprout a little lower down, and then I cut the next tallest one, and so on, until eventually you get a bit closer to the base. I really could do with some new growth coming from the base, and then I can chop it even further. Piper sylvaticum. Last time I showed this, I talked about these, I don't know what you call it, exudate. You can see the little spots on it there, or little bits of dew. Apparently that's perfectly natural. Lots of plants do it. Some people responded and told me what it was, and I looked it up as well. And apparently it's when you maybe overwater it a little bit. Overwater it? Never. It's not something I would ever do. But obviously it's getting too much water, so what it does, it just secretes little droplets. It's no problem to it whatsoever. It's just a little alarming at first because you think you've got some kind of bug. You see them all glistening on there. But it always seems to have this. It's not like I'm watering every 5 minutes. It's on my fingers now. It's quite sticky. So yeah, that's what that is. I did lose a couple of begonias. That one seems to have come back now. There's a couple of pots back there you'll see with nothing in them. The species Ceratopitella, I don't think that's going to come back, unfortunately. That actually started its decline when it was drowned, so I think that's the cause of that one. Begonia Fireworks, never really taken off for me. I think that one's gone. I'll give him a little while, but I think it's, you know, I'm being wishful thinking now. I don't think they're going to come back. Tradescantia sillamontana, again, lots of people have trouble with this one, me included. But I know what the problem is. You can see it's beginning to grow again now. It hates high humidity in low temperatures, as do many of these tropical plants. And as soon as you get high humidity in low temperatures for any length of time, you'll find that all the stems start to rot off. It does come back fairly quickly. I only brought this in about a week ago and it had no new growth on it, and you can see there's quite a number of new growths on it now. So I don't water it very often. It really doesn't like to be watered very often. It'll come back. I'm quite happy with it staying fairly small. Just keep bringing it back here during the winter months and it starts to sprout for me. My Begonia melanobulata doesn't seem to be too difficult at all to grow. Nice new leaf coming there. Absolutely stunning thing. Love this. I don't know why anybody wouldn't want one of those. So up here we have Philodendron melanochrysum. That is going off up there. And I think this is going to need staking properly soon. I do have it on a stick, but I really need to buy myself some more moss poles. All my Hippeastrum up here, a little bit disappointing actually, because the dormancy period, I mean, again, they don't have to go dormant, but the dormancy that I was inflicting on them, it got all messed up because I was at the point where I'd had them dormant through the summer and then I was about to bring them back and various things happened. The overwatering happened and it brought them back into leaf, but I just don't think, especially the temperatures, well, when I drop the temperatures, that's really thrown them again. One or two's gone back into dormancy. One did bloom, but the others so far, they're a bit of a mixed bag, and I really doubt whether they're going to bloom for me this year. And that's just one of those things. Well, definitely not this year. Not much of it left, is there? Maybe they'll start to bloom for me springtime. I don't know. Again, I'm not worried about them. They'll come back. It's just one of those things that happens. Looking again at different Tradescantia, you know, this one, Yellow Hill, you can see what happens with it. This was gorgeous, it was massive. Whether the mites got at it, I don't know. We'll just have to see. There's another one that's looking dreadful. This is another Cerinthoides one. You know, this is the breaks. You lose a lot. You know, don't ever, certainly not on my channel anyway, don't ever come on here and think that I grow everything wonderful and nothing ever goes wrong. My goodness, nothing could be further from the truth. But I'm aware that I'm growing things that don't want to grow in my conditions, and I'm trying to replicate conditions, and I know I can't do it perfectly. That's just the way it goes. That's part of the challenge of growing these things. Otherwise I'd be growing potatoes and daffodils, wouldn't I? If I could just follow the conditions outside, it wouldn't be any problem. But then at this time of year, I'd have nothing to look at, would I? So that is supposedly Hoya Wilbur Graves. I have read that, or heard, can't remember which, read or heard, that a lot of these aren't actually Wilbur Graves. So any Hoya experts out there, tell me, is that actually Wilbur Graves? It does look like it. It's looking nice anyway. I think, you know, it's a tiny, tiny little cutting. I don't know what the flowers look like if I ever get them, but if it does as well as the other one has in here, I'll just take you over to that one. So that is my Carnosa Crimson Queen. That's doing really well at the moment. So if it does as well as that one, I'll be quite happy. I know that is an easier one to grow. Could definitely get into Hoyas. There's so many plants I could get into. I just love plants, and I find it very, very difficult to come up with one single genus, one single family. I just like to grow loads of things, and unfortunately you can't. There are too many. The world's very big, and I think even if I had a swimming pool size greenhouse, I still would be a long way short of having enough space. Over here, my maidenhair fern, I had to bring it over here. I left it too long in the greenhouse, and obviously it's a tropical fern and it doesn't like it. I mean, gosh, you only need to miss watering for about 25 minutes from when it wants it, and the whole thing will kind of collapse. So it's not looking brilliant at the moment. I've actually cut a lot off that died, but I'm quite sure at these temperatures now it'll do a lot better. So that's the hotties for 2022, and I don't think I'll make another video before 2023. I think I've probably shown you everything, unless Father Christmas brings me something. You never know, do you? I might actually get something I've been after for a long time. Although I'm saying that, I very much doubt it. I think Hazel, my wife, tends to avoid anything planty just because she knows I have certain specifications when it comes to plants, and she doesn't want to get it wrong. So what I'll do is I'll sign off for now. It's been a great year, not without its issues, I have to say. When I kind of look back, there's been the health issues that I've had, there's been the various pests, you know, I've had the spider mite, I've had the fungus gnats, there's been other mites, there's been other pests, there's been fungal diseases, there's been the overwatering during the summer, there's been all sorts of different problems, but I'm hoping that I've learnt a lot and I will never face any of those problems ever again. What do you think? Have a great Christmas. If I don't see you before the new year, I hope Father Christmas brings you everything that you want, and I hope you continue to support the channel and that I provide you with everything you want in terms of YouTube plant viewing. I'm sure I will. Have a good one, and I'll see you in the new year. Bye.